Good morning and welcome to What's Working Wednesday here on the Step by Step Listening page. I'm Cheryl Andrews, the founder, and today I'm talking all about standing out, love or hate it. The reason I'm talking about this is because one, I've got the webinar that I'm running with Karen tomorrow about how to make your book stand out. One of the most challenging questions that I got asked as an author was, what makes your book different? And I remember my critic becoming really overactive, thinking that, surely this stuff everybody knows, or there's other people that have written about it. There's all those kind of questions. So we're going to be covering on that webinar tomorrow all about the critic when it comes in context of your book and helping you to stand out. But one of the challenges we've got if we're business owners is that we want to stand out and we need to stand out. But if you've got a fear of standing out, or it's something's not, you don't like people who look like they're standing out and they're showing off, or it's all about them, it might stop you from actually putting yourself out there and moving things forward. So I want to talk a little bit about that today. But also when it comes to, I've met lots of people who are really good at standing out. Some of my best friends are people who quite happy to dress and wear whatever they want to wear. They don't worry about what the norm is or what the sort of following the crowds are all about. But it's something that has really challenged me personally. It's because I want to be recognised. I wanted people to notice that I was of value and that they heard. But when I got recognition, I'd feel incredibly uncomfortable. And so today I want to talk about that. If that's you, I'd love to hear about you. It's always great for me to know I'm not alone. I would say right now I'm much more comfortable. I've had three situations over the last few days that have meant that I felt like I've done something or been something and I stood out from everybody else. And then when I got the feedback and the response, I'm noticing that I'm not being derailed. I'm not being destroyed like I used to. Whereas before, I remember sort of the blood rushing to my head and my face, and I would blush and I'd feel quite hot and nauseous and sick and feel quite, and I'd reject, particularly if it was recognition. I'd be like, oh, it's nothing, don't worry about it. I'd push it all away and I wouldn't be comfortable with being recognized. It was like if somebody else put me on shine the light on me, I felt like I've been put on one of those really tall pillars, like the ones in the Greek or Roman Colosseums, and it was really tall, and I was on the top, and people were putting all their attention on me and telling people how great I was. But I felt really vulnerable up there. I felt like I was going to fall, and I didn't like that feeling of standing out in such an unsafe way. That's the best way I can describe it. Whereas as I've been working with people and clients, and we've been looking at how to stand out in a way that works for you, it is about finding out how we can communicate what makes us different without making us right or wrong. It's not about we're better than other people. It's just that we're different. And I think that's when I used to feel like people were putting the light on me, I was thinking that there is, and it's still an old behavior, it's an old pattern I'm undoing, is that perception. If I've been made to be better than someone else, then somebody else must be not so good. And I hated the thought that I was getting the light shining on me and it meant somebody else was being neglected. And so that conflict of this doesn't work for me meant I didn't like standing out in any way, shape or form. When I changed the belief from being that I'm better or worse, so instead of being competitive, it was more collaborative, and I talked about us being different rather than better than worse, right or wrong. It's that I can stand out for doing things the way that I do things that's unique, and I can honor and respect the differences in other people. And so I've had a couple of experiences the last few days, and particularly things like square pegs. I get to meet some amazing people that have got this innate ability to just be themselves without, people might talk about them having no filter, but it's almost like they don't have that filter of keep worrying about what other people think and feel. Therefore, they are purely showing up as the whole of them. So I wrote down today for myself, how do I need to be to show up? I need to be authentic, clear and concise. But even if I write those words down, authentic for me is I tend to tell a story, and I don't always start in the beginning. I start in the middle, and so it's almost a bit of oxymoron, a catch-22, that for me to be authentic, it's not always concise and it's not always clear. So how do I stand out in a way that works is by me having a really strong support network of people that I can talk to and stand out, show up as the whole of me, get the clarity, and then I can communicate it more consistently. So I want you to think about it for yourself. What are your thoughts about standing out? What does your critic say when you see somebody out there going, look at me, what do you say about them? Because I want you to be curious about that, because I believe when we criticize other people, inadvertently we are criticizing ourselves. So it might be something about us that we don't like, or something we can see. I talk about it in a book about reflections, that mirror, that often behavior other people have got that we are frustrated by. Either it's a behavior that we wish we could have, or it's a behavior we have that we're not consciously aware of. So if they're all about me, maybe you're someone also, without consciously being aware of it, tends to talk with the pronoun about me. Or maybe you wish you could have that kind of confidence. So be curious about that. I'm going to share with you today, and I'm just going to talk from the heart about it. You know, for standing out for me when it's at its best, when I stand out at my best, it's when I'm shining a light on somebody else. So the attention's on me, but I'm talking about somebody else. Now, one of the things I challenged with as a coach is that they talk about getting testimonials and case studies, etc. Is that sometimes the stuff that my clients talk to me about is very confidential, and it would often take years. Sometimes they'd get the results they want, but they'd have instant relief, but it might be a year, 18 months before it would all transpire, and it would all sort of snowball and become this amazing the result that they get, where they felt confident and comfortable to admit to how they were feeling when they first started working with me. So we couldn't get the before and after conversation. We could say what was working well. So I found it quite difficult to shine the light on my clients. When I very first started my business, I often talked about myself, and still do tell stories about myself, because in my line of work, talking about other people isn't always as easy for me to do, because I have to wait until they're ready and that they see and feel and experience the transformation for themselves, that they are confident enough to admit to where they were thinking and feeling before. And if you're still in transition, it's difficult to actually be vulnerable and say, I couldn't do this before. So for me, when I'm standing out my best, I'm shining the light on somebody else. I'm directing, it's like a signpost. And so I think standing out is absolutely vital. I'd hate to walk around the world without any signs. If there was no motorway signs, for example, when I was driving on the motorway, I was trying to find something or someone, and there was no signposts in the world at all, I would be completely lost. And so actually I require people around me to stand out and tell me what they're good at, how they can help me, they tell me stories about the problems that they can solve, because it's a signpost, it's a guide for me to check in with myself and resonate with them, whether it works. What doesn't work for me is if somebody is standing out and they are doing it at the detriment of somebody else. So that there was a good example on Facebook a couple of days ago. One of my friends was talking about how a competitor had come up to them and sort of slated another competitor. And actually that doesn't work for me. If you want to stand out, then you have to do it in I believe, without the criticism, without the drama, without you don't have to make somebody else bad in order to make yourself good. So one of the questions that Karen and I ask in the workbook, How to Get Started, is what will make your book different? But also, I want you to think about what makes you different. So understanding what it is you want from standing out, understanding what you want in terms of confidence in what makes you different. So knowing yourself really well. And then the ability to change the way you respond to feedback is absolutely key in my experience to be able to stand out with confidence. So I would love to hear from you some examples when you have stood out and it's absolutely worked. Let's talk about things where it hasn't worked as well. That'd be great. Because it can be quite isolating as well. I've known some people who have spent their entire life not wanting to conform, not wanting to be the same as everybody else, really putting the attention on how different they are from everybody else. And then that can feel quite isolating. So whereas I spent most of my life trying to be the same as everybody else, trying to let people know how we were similar, and I'd get quite rejected by some people who were like, oh no, we're completely different. You're nothing like me. So we are connected by similarities and differences. It's not one either or. And so sometimes a connection comes together because we value the fact that the other person thinks differently, behaves differently, has different life experiences, and that's what gives us that sense of connection. And sometimes it's the similarities. It's like that sense of, oh, thank goodness it's not just me. So you've been on a similar journey to me. You've got a similar map to me. And what I have found through my process of actually being more comfortable being myself, turning up and being authentic and showing up in the world as me, is that I had to value the things that were similar about me with other people, but also equally value the stuff that's different, and talk about that in a way that wasn't detrimental to other people. It's not about making me right, making them wrong so I could be right. So I would love your thoughts today about how standing out. I will put a link in the comments to the how to make your book stand out, because what I've just discovered as I was modeling this out with you just in the moment is that the reason why the book has helped me in my business so much is because I am much more confident when I'm shining the light on someone else. When I'm directing you, I'm not going, hey, come to me, come have a look, come and work with me. I'm going, have you looked at this? Have you done that? So when I got very clear what my products were, when I got very clear about my process, when I got very clear about my service, I could direct people's attention on clarity or confidence or change or delegation or do delegate or ditch, whatever the words are, but it was external to me. And so standing out for me became easier because I was talking about something that was outside of me. It wasn't say, come and work with me. It was just telling people about the processes and sharing those resources. And when I got the book then gave me something tangible that I could shine the light on. I could point to it. I could give it to people. It was something that other people could share and send around. So having that book helped me stand out. But there are things that go on in an author's mind, and I believe this applies to all of us as well in life, not just authors, but the journey of writing a book can help you to unravel this and to help you to resolve these things in your own mind as well, is that there can be some fear around standing out. So some people will be don't want to put their attention on themselves for some reason, and there's a fear of that, maybe a fear of getting really, really successful if they did that. There is a fear of maybe they're not good enough to stand out, maybe they're not different enough to be different to everybody else, that they're not going to be exclusive enough or unique enough. So there's a fear about how they know they want to stand out, but they don't know how to, which we'll be covering on the webinar. And there are some people that they're so driven to stand out that they can't get their book or their message or their communication to align and connect with people who will resonate with that message. So it's like you've got to get that balance between something that's similar enough that you meet the reader or the person you're communicating to, your client, your family members, whoever it is, that when you communicate what makes you different, that you do it on in a way that meets the person where they are and they bring you on your journey, you share the journey together. Just standing out for just standing out's sake means you just stand there. It's like, just like dancing in the middle of a field. As long as you are happy doing that, that's fine. But if you are standing out with a purpose of wanting to connect, you want to attract people towards you, there's a unique way to do it. And the first thing is for you to be really clear, what is the response that you want? So get clarity of what kind of standing out is that standing out that works for you. There's an expression, isn't it? Standing out for all the right reasons. Think about what standing out would be like if it works for you. Think about what standing out is like when it doesn't work for you. And think about what would need to happen for it to work better. Now, you can do that from your own personal perspective, but you can also do it from what you've seen other people do or don't do. So there may be role models that do standing out really well that you like. There might be people that stand out a lot and you don't like them for whatever reason. Let's have a discussion about it. Let's explore the differences. And it's when we actually get that collective discussion going that we can start to dissolve it into a model that will work for each one of us. By taking our own individual perceptions, we can create something that will really make it work. Hope that's of interest to you today. I look forward to hearing more from you guys. Have a great week standing out, and I'll put some photographs and some stuff below all about my experiences recently with standing out. Speak to you soon.